Welcome back. Good evening. Due to late arrival of some snacks here, we are going to adjourn the meeting for another 15 minutes so that the members of parliament can just eat a little bit and then convene at 6:15. So meeting adjourned till 6:15.
And welcome back. I hereby reopen this meeting after the brief adjournment, and I immediately open the floor and pass the floor to our Minister of Finance, the Honorable Artwell Irion, to answer the questions posed by the members of Parliament in the first round. Minister, you have the floor.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to first start by thanking the support staff of the different ministries for answering all the questions that were posed by the members of Parliament. And before I go into answering, I'll start with MP Peterson. But before I go into answering the questions, I'd also like to give a general synopsis of the budget, because I keep on hearing references made to budget cuts, budget cuts, budget cuts, budget cuts, and so forth, right? This isn't the first time we've had budget cuts. I think every year since 2010, more than likely, we've had budget cuts. And it isn't because we want to cut the budget, it's also because of our reality, right? If our income is a certain amount, right, you can't budget for money that you don't have, right? So we have an amount that's budgeted, we have fixed costs, salaries, rent, subsidies, and so forth, right? And then you have a small chunk of money that's left over that is then split among the different ministries. So it isn't that anybody wants to cut, let's say, marketing. Every single ministry has taken a cut. Every single ministry. On top of that, CFT has also indicated that they won't be given, their advice to the Netherlands would also be no more liquidity support in terms of supporting a budget. They want to have a balanced budget, for example. So we are also fighting that battle, right? In addition to that, even the money that we request from the Netherlands in regards to liquidity support, we request 30, we get 20, we request 10, you get 5. So you don't even get the amount that you are requesting to support the budget. So that's our reality. In addition to that, I've also spoken to the SGs, the ministers, and I believe also the controllers. And the idea is not to have a wish list, and that's what happens at times, a wish list. And then when you look at the reality of the last 5 to 8 years, execution doesn't happen on the wish list, right? Because of capacity issues, persons not being hired, things not being done in time. So yes, we have a wish list of things we want to do, but in reality, a majority of things sometimes are not executed because of different reasons. And lastly, in regards to that, I also think that what I discussed with the Council of Ministers was we have a right to amend a budget, right? So, for example, we have budget 2023. If that passes, things are going a lot better in the first quarter. We get more income. We could always come back to Parliament for good reasons to amend the budget to allocate money where need be. So those options are always there, and those options are options that we should be using. With that being said, I'll start with the questions posed by MP Peterson. MP Peterson asked a question in regards to the Ring Road. And the main road to create the budget space of the Ring Road. The answer, a breakdown with the preliminary targeted roads has been shared in relation to the question from MP Sarah Reska Williams. So in addition to that, to Mr. Chairman and to the Griffier, we have sent a few documents, I believe, to the members of Parliament. I believe it's the CAPEX that was requested by MP Lumida de Weaver. I think to Garrick, I believe. So, sorry, the Griffier. So, need 2 minutes to confirm? Okay. What are the government plans for 2023 with respect to the public roads? The plans for the public road network is focused on upgrading the existing road network, which also includes the hard surfacing of dirt roads. This information has been reflected in the CAPEX for 2022. Next answer, the infrastructure development stimulates the economy by improving accessibility and mobility through the country. By improving St. Martin's infrastructure, we facilitate the mobility of people and products and remove the constraints and physical barriers. Question 4 from MP Peterson. This was in regards to any talks with the northern side, establishing a friendship. Currently, 3 cooperation projects have been identified with the northern side, which are 1, the joint wastewater treatment plant, 2, the cleaning of the lagoon, and 3, the Belle Plaine drainage project. Next answer, due to unresolved issues with the landowners, the project related to the east-west connection, Link 6, has not progressed. Therefore, nothing has been budgeted for this until a viable solution has been found for all stakeholders. Next answer was in regards to the capital loan 2021. CapEx 2022 is included in the budget 22. Sorry. The answer to that is no, this was not. No, this was because all investments that did not have the required detailed plans as required by the CFT, which we adjusted in the amended budget 2022. Next answer. CapEx 2022 is included in the budget 2022. In the notes to the budget, each investment is explained. The MP wanted an update on liquidity review 2023 and 2024. A budget estimation of the expenses and revenues for the year. We also make multi-annual budgets. However, the liquidity refers to available cash. We do not have a liquidity overview of 2023 and 2024. I thought it was a very weird question because we can't have a liquidity overview of the future. Liquidity is what we have currently. In regards to the crypto conference held overseas, this was a private initiative by the MP, which was not government related. And now move on to the questions posed by MP Lumila DeWeaver. The central bank estimated a 6% inflation for the year, and we are taking 2% in the budget. Most costs are contractually agreed fixed costs, which are not influenced by the inflation, reasoning for not applying the whole 6% across the board for our expenses, but solely 2%. The next question from the MP was in regard to the massive fluctuations between the budget 2022 earlier this year and the amended budget in regards to investments in our infrastructure and so forth. And MP is right. She saw the big differences between the budget we sent earlier and now. And that is because of the fact, MP, that we wanted to actually, for the first time since 2014, actually have the opportunity to get CapEx for the first time. So we really drilled down on all the different ministries to really have a plan for the loans that they wanted, not a wish list. So not, yes, we want 10,000 computers, but no. But why do you want 10,000 computers? Who are they going to? The cost of these computers, so they also have to go and get estimates and so forth. For example, ministries that could not come forward with a detailed plan for the loans, right? Those ministries were advised to then get a plan and then possibly put them in budget 2023. So it's not that they are totally excluded from CapEx. We allow them time to prepare a detailed plan to put those CapEx that were missed in 2022 in CapEx 2023. In addition to that, we also look at our debt to GDP ratio. We are currently at, I believe, under 60%, which is good. And we also try to keep that in mind going forward because we know that's one of the comments we're going to get from the Central Bank, IMF, and CFT. MP also asked, and she also gave a story about the elderly and the businesses that don't exist in regards to ICT, because MP saw that substantial investments were being made in the ICT. And I want to say to the MP, through you, Mr. Chairman, that it's not only the elderly. We've also gotten complaints here and there, but I would also like to state that this is a problem that I came in and met, right? So sometimes, let's say in general, we are discussing different things in the Ministry of Finance and so forth, and I've said it before, that the tax office has been neglected over the last few years, right? That's the main issue. They're dealing with legacy systems that haven't been updated for the last 20, 15, 10 years. We have one system called HAFIS, which I believe has been there since the Island Council days, right? So we could imagine how old the system is, and sometimes you have staff right in front of it trying to get information on a payment, and it takes 45 minutes just to load that data for one query. So we are busy improving these systems through different means. ICT also has their CapEx. I believe a lot of it is hardware in the CapEx zone. And yes, we are looking at upgrading our software also to make these issues be a thing of the past. In addition to that, we are also doing a database cleanup. We're also working with the chamber and other institutions to have the data cleanup overall. I believe that was all the questions from MP DeWeaver. I now go on to the questions posed. Who is this? By MP Sarah Scott Williams. MP asked, can I receive an update on the budget status of 2023, please? The budget 2023 MP has been drafted and is now being vetted by CFT according to Article 11 from the EDFTA. It is also being sent to the Dalton Avis. The next question was in regards to the tourist office promotion budget. The budget for 2022 that was amended has been used. To date, 93% of the budget has been spent or reserved to be spent. The STB budget was not cut because STB did not use its budget. What are the plans for partnership with these ports, airport and the harbor? STB and St. Martin Airport will be developing an airlift development plan and collaborate on all matters of marketing and promoting the destination. STB and Port will be conducting a co-op marketing campaign with the Florida Caribbean Cruise Association for 2023 and other collaborations such as home porting, Sea Trade, and FCCA conference attendance. In addition to that, cruise line media trips. What can the tourism office do with 4.9 million guilders budgeted for TIAT? The 2020, yes. The answer, image building, route development, strategy plan development, joint training activities, promotional sales events with airlines, advertising and social media, cruise ship development, strategy plan development, joint training activities, promotional activities with Port St. Martin, advertising and social media, marine yacht development, joint strategy development, promotional sales events, and advertising, among others. The objective of 2022 to 2024 is to increase tourism arrivals, develop a year-round tourism through diversification within niche markets, develop year-round tourism through diversification, niche markets, increase airlift through cooperative marketing, airlines, increase visibility to give value to visitors, Expedia campaigns, Booking.com. Sales action, increase our efforts to travel agents through presentation and programs and destination awareness campaigns and webinars, and the STB attendance at travel shows in collaboration with stakeholders. Diversification of the tourism through MICE, yachting, sports, culinary, and culture. Last but not least, work on establishing the St. Martin Tourism Authority. The MP also requested to have the agreement by A&A Accounting from the SME program. That document will be sent for viewing to Parliament via the confidentiality route. MP asked us to provide a task force with regard to justice and the policy outline. The answer has been provided, the advice has been provided. MP asked a question for Vromi in regards to the mutations on long lease. The mutations in 2022, through you, Mr. Chairman, regarding the long lease have been fixed and is a direct impact of the implementation of the task force that is focused on collection efforts on commercial properties. MP asks, what are the two initiatives to the tune of 8.5 million guilders? Which projects are they exactly? These projects are the uplossing from the bottlenecks. I'm trying to translate. So the uplossing from the bottlenecks personnel, solving the bottlenecks of the tax office of St. Martin. That was 900 guilders. 900,000 guilders, sorry. Capacity building program, that was 450,000 guilders. Strengthening the HR, that was 450,000 guilders. The Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, that was 900,000 guilders. The incidental cost for assistance was 900,000 guilders. The strengthening of the policy department, 450,000 guilders. And the improving of the prison, which was 1.8 million guilders. And the border control, which was 2.7 million guilders. MP asked for the plans in regards to the CapEx that was sent. MP asked if there's a formation plan for the EPU. The formation, yes, there's a formation plan. MP asked if the ministry organization was updated. The amendment to the LEOL is in draft and currently in the legislative process. MP asked about taxes on hotels. This is a part of the tax legislation improvement plans, which will be presented to the Finance Committee of Parliament, as previously mentioned. MP asked about the strategy for Carnival and the preliminary results of the investigation. The presentation provided to us by SMDF, which was a third party, has also been sent to Parliament. MP asked, what is the intention of the tourism levy? The tourism levy is a levy that is being worked out by the Ministry of VSA, an initiative that's being worked out by the Ministry of VSA. It isn't fully complete, and the members of Parliament will be updated when that process is further along. Next answer, regarding the coalition agreement. Oh, sorry. No, sorry. The next question was in regards to the cut of the integrity chamber. And is the integrity chamber going to be cut again? The Integrity Chamber requested in 2023 for approximately 2.4 million guilders, MP. In addition to that, after several discussions with government, the Integrity Chamber requested an amendment of 2 million guilders. Based on this, the Integrity Chamber was able to resume some of its planned activities that were put on hold due to budget cuts. Even though the 2 million guilders is tight, the Integrity Chamber is working with this budget. However, the decreased budget resulted in less investigations, awareness activities, advice, and proposals that was planned for the year 2022. The tasks of the Integrity Chamber contribute towards a more efficient and effective government and improves services rendered by government to the public. It helps to increase awareness of civil servants of their duties to execute their tasks in a fair, accountable, and honest manner. In addition, submitted advices and proposals to help build a stronger nation and improve the image of St. Martin and the trust between the government and society. MP asked a question in regards to the ad hoc road patching by VROMI. Is there a policy in place? Annually, there's a road patching resurfacing program that takes place by the Ministry of VROMI via public tender. Additionally, emergency works and patching are executed outside of the annual program by the section from the VROMI yard, and in bigger cases, contractors that are hired to carry out assigned works. MP asked a question in regards to vehicles, trust fund, and asset. All new cars from the trust fund, each ministry received vehicles based on what was requested by the ministries at that time. MP asks, who is working for the cabinets of the different ministries based on the consultant agreement? All the ministries. General Affairs, it's C. Emilia Media. Justice, there's Madiflex Attorneys and Consultants. VSA, there's Bummel and Associates and Market SXM. VROMI, Grassroots Lawyers, and Beaver Builders. MP asks, what is the outstanding concession payments from GB? 6.7, the concession from GB is 6.7 million guilders, and so far we received 3.4 million guilders. What are the outstanding amounts from the casinos, and is it only the salary component? So far we've invoiced a total of 10 million guilders for 2022 MP for casinos and lottery fees. MP asks, how is the database being cleaned up? The database of registered businesses is being cleansed based on interviews on the business and the business owners. The cleansing is also being done on public information from the Chamber of Commerce in case a business is closed. In the case of core administrative data of the taxable person changed, like another business address, the tax administration updates this information in the system. In case an NV or BV ceased all economic activities and has no employees but legally still exists, the NV or BV is removed from the system as an active taxpayer from turnover tax and wage tax. As a result, this NV or BV will no longer receive taxative assessments if the NV or BV does not file the tax returns on time. MP asked for the relationship between SFV and government on complying with agreements. Government is current with payments to SFV. What are the new measures relating to the 12.5% as referred to in the note following in the report on your question, MP? And the response that was given, yes, a different combination of measures is used to cover the 12.5% reduction. In that, the new set of measures, vacation pay was not used. This is valid for the whole of 2022. This means that for 2022, the vacation allowance for government is not part of the 12.5% cut and will temporarily be replaced by vacation days until the go-ahead for eliminating the cuts. MP, I am sorry to say, in regards to the 3 questions that you have from ECYS, We have not gotten an answer up until present. And that would have been all the questions, MP Sarah Scott Williams, in regards to the questions posed. I now go over to the questions posed by MP Christophe Emmanuel. Let's find them. Yes, no water break. Is the carnival subsidy meant for anything other than marketing? Please provide the decree. The contribution from STB is meant for marketing. Has the SCDF failed to submit requirements? The SCDF must adhere to the subsidy ordinance, and there have been delays and exemptions granted in the past. I'll also update on this in regards to failing to submit requirements. And that was also one of the other answers from the MP. If we had a meeting with Carnival, yes, we had a meeting, I believe, last week with SCDF. And this was also a topic that came up. And over the last few years, Carnival as a foundation, they then have to follow the subsidy ordinance, right? And the subsidy ordinance requires you to submit your audited financials to get the other 10%. In the past, there has been cases where the minister in charge of the Ministry of TIAT has indicated to give an exemption for whatever reason, and that accountability at that point in time was on that relevant minister when it comes to an exemption. Next question. MP asks, who has paid for the direct operations of Carnival since 2012? The answer given is this information needs to be provided by SCDF directly. The subsidy from the STB pays for marketing. Next question, how much does the St. Martin SCDF pay for security? Light, sound.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, point of order, Mr. Chairman.
1 minute, Minister. Yep.
Mr. Chairman, my apologies not to derail the minister, but I would like to know in what manner is he answering the questions, because I'm a bit confused trying to follow, because he started out answering all the way down to number 8 and then back up to number 1 and then back to number 7. So I'm trying to understand in what order is he answering the questions.
Random order.
A random order?
You said it yourself.
I didn't answer either in the order.
No, but that's not my concern whether how you answer the rest. I'm just trying to find out the question that I asked. Is he's answering, if he's going to answer them from 1, go down to 53, or just anyhow? Because then I'm confused. I can't follow that, Mr. Chairman. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe there's a special order that I have to answer the questions in. The main thing is I have to answer all of the questions. And I'm answering the questions as the answers were provided to me. So there are a lot of questions. No, how the answers were provided, not how the questions were provided. So I'm answering the questions on how the answers were provided. And I don't believe there's any rules or orders saying that how the minister or any third party needs to answer if it's an order or randomized or not. If that's the case, Mr. Chairman, I stand to be corrected.
There is no agreement that says if the questions are posed 1 through 10, they have to be answered 1 through 10. The issue that you have is the minister's answering from several ministries, and as those answers came in, he compiled the list of answers. So it is not so that the minister then took copy-paste, this belong here, this belong there. He sent out the different questions as they came in. He has compiled his answers. I know it might be difficult if you want to follow them, but once you have asked them, you know the questions that you've asked and you would recognize the answers to it. We'll continue and give the floor to the minister, but before we do so, we just want to welcome the chairman of the Kingdom Affairs Committee from Curacao, Mr. Mr. Amerigo today, and the greffier from the Parliament of Curacao, Mr. Sylvain Sanger. There was something else? Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next question and answer. I believe I was mentioning the answer regarding to the SCDF security lights and stage. The MP asks if government contributes to any of this. This information needs to be provided by SCDF directly. This is a third party, not a government entity, so they would have to ask SCDF about this. Next question was, has the government of St. Martin applied the subsidy ordinance correctly with the foundation of the last 7 years, yes or no? The government always aims to apply the subsidy ordinance across the board, but as I mentioned before, also the Minister of TIAT, or the minister responsible for the relevant subsidies, also has an opportunity to have an exemption based on the law. If there were deviations, please explain what deviations were made to the subsidy ordinance. There weren't any deviations made to the subsidy ordinance. Again, as was stated, there's a subsidy ordinance. The foundation applies. It's not an incidental subsidy. It's not an incidental subsidy. So they apply, and to get the other 10%, they have to also hand in their audited financials, among other things for in the subsidy ordinance, which can also be provided to the members of Parliament so that they are fully aware what the subsidy ordinance states regarding to getting subsidy. Next question, how long has the service providers worked with the SCDF? This information also needs to be provided by SCDF directly. Government cannot answer that. Was there ever a time the subsidy was not granted in the last 7 years? Yes, in 2020 and 2021, there was no carnival held. Question, why subsidy reduced from 500,000 guilders to 250 by the former minister? Please provide a decree on this decision. The budget of the Carnival Foundation and all subsidies are set by the Parliament of St. Martin. There are no decrees for decisions on budget allocations as requested by the MP. How much money does the St. Martin Carnival Foundation owe to these people? Again, this is information that needs to be provided by SCDF directly. On what legal basis will government attempt to put Carnival on bid? Again, we have gotten advice from a third party in regarding the possible steps forward for Carnival, and that presentation has been sent to Parliament. But for clarity's sake, I can state in that advice, and government has not made a decision as yet in regarding to the advice given, but in that advice states that due to the time frame, it would not be advised to put a bidding out for 2023. Next question, does government consider itself owner of Carnival on which legal ground? The government does not consider itself owner of Carnival. It's a cultural event for the people. The government assists and supports both financially and logistically and provides the permits, but the government also believes Carnival is that of the people. And this has also been stated to SCDF last week in our meeting, that Carnival is also not owned by SCDF for that matter. So we can ask the question if government is owned, but it's also not owned by SCDF. And in here, they also asked about the question for the MP was also about the legal ground for owning Carnival. Again, if government decides that another entity, government has the power to decide that another entity could host Carnival, because Carnival is not owned by SCDF. If SCDF wants to hold Carnival during the year another time, they can also do that. Matter of fact, SCDF can hold events all through the year, because they are an entity to do that. But government can subsidize another entity to host Carnival. In addition to that, again, on legal grounds, in the presentation that was sent to Parliament and in discussion last week with SCDF, one of the concerns brought forward in the investigation research was in the articles of the SCDF in 2015, seemingly articles were removed that every article that had to do with government was removed. Every single article. And those are the questions we asked. Why were those removed, right, and on what basis? Next question, what part of Carnival has government organized over the past 30 years? Again, in the presentation that was sent to Parliament, it goes back to the first time Carnival, I believe, was presented to the island, and they also discussed every entity that hosted Carnival, the reason why we're here today, and so forth. So government didn't necessarily organize Carnival. There were different bodies and entities. I believe the government was also participating at times, but government at almost all times facilitates Carnival, allows Carnival to happen. And then there's a question. Does government understand that SCDF is a legal foundation, or do they view it differently? Of course, government understands that it's a legal foundation because every BV, every NV, every foundation is a legal entity on its own. Next question was, based on what legal ground? Is this based on MOU? A foundation status is based on articles of incorporation. How will Carnival be put out on bid? Again, I already answered that in regards to the bid on Carnival. Will government be putting Heineken Regatta and St. Martin Festival on bid as well? No, we won't, but I'll also say that every year these entities also submit their audited financials on a yearly basis and on a timely basis. Does the past not give SCDF a legal claim on Carnival? No, SCDF does not get a claim on Carnival. Carnival belongs to the people which government facilitates. In addition to that, we are not clear on which claim is being referred to in regards to a claim on Carnival. What are the long-term agreements SCDF has? Again, this is an agreement from a third party. We will have to ask SCDF to report on these agreements that they have. Does the government know on the threats that members came under? Government cannot confirm or deny any threats as a foundation, as it is its own entity. Next answer, yes, the government has had several meetings in the past, including health protocols, security, and other meetings with the SCDF and the Council of Ministers. It was stated that the previous governments did not start an investigation, started an audit. You could also consider an audit and investigation. That's what an audit is. An audit investigates something. How did canceling Carnival in 2020 affected St. Martin Carnival Foundation? Again, we can't, Carnival I'm not sure they reported to us financially how they were affected, but I can assume that they were affected since they didn't have any carnival. That is very logical. But not only SADF, I believe the whole island was affected, and that's why we even had to end up getting liquidity support of almost 200 and something million dollars from the Netherlands to support many businesses through SSRP. The MP asks if government treats Carnival differently than anyone else. And again, if the MP is referring to any COVID relief, the SRP was available to all entities who qualified. We are not aware of any application for SRP or enterprise support from the Carnival Foundation, and we would even go further to verify this. Several ministers announced to put Carnival on bid. Do the ministers realize what this will do to the foundation? We cannot verify the amount, the effect of the announcement has caused by the bid. Discussion. The third party to investigate the audit was SYB, and the third party recently was SMDF. In regards to the findings, SADF said that in 2017, they lost all information due to the damage in water of Hurricane Irma. And regarding MOUs, discussed prior to Hurricane Irma, the Carnival submitted a draft MOU. Was this discussed? Various discussions have been held regarding possible MOUs with Carnival. No decision has been taken on this. However, we must consider the MOU cannot supersede legal requirements such as to provide audited financials. Is government willing to come to agreement with St. Martin Carnival Foundation? The government is absolutely willing to come to an agreement with St. Martin Carnival Foundation and other subsidized organizations in the interest of the country. We have met with the SADF and will take all the proposals into consideration as long as they fit within the national interest and the applicable laws. Our primary objective is that Carnival 2023 is not jeopardized. Is the government willing to continue to work with SADF just like with the regatta? Yes, as I explained above. Mr. Chairman, I believe that are all the questions from MP Emmanuel. So seemingly one is missing. Whoops. And that one question is, how much has the exclusivity caused the government of Telem? The government does not have any costs related to the exclusivity of Carnival. The costs related to the village as a whole are taken up with the budget of the SOG. The SOG spearheads sponsorship and management of the village, not the government directly. Did the government speak with the foundation before renewing agreements with Telem? It was not this government, so we haven't got information about the discussions with the past government, so we can't answer that question. Have boots been repaired, and what would happen to insurance money? The boots have not been repaired. I know that the Prime Minister indicated that boots are being, the process to repair the boots is in process. Yes, and that now concludes all the questions from MP.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, that is exactly the point that I raised earlier. That is exactly the reason why I raised that point earlier. Because, Mr. Chairman, I have 26 questions that is not answered. And why is that? Because, Mr. Chairman, they are all over the place. And then the problem is going to arise that you're going to say, well, re-ask those questions in clarifications. No, the minister did not answer them in the first round. Hence the reason why I brought up that point in terms of answering them in the manner they was asked. They are all questions relating to one entity. So it can't be that you're getting answers from all the different ministers.
MP, during clarification, you can
You see,
restate.
this is what I'm talking about.
Even if he answered them in the order that you present, he can skip
But Mr.
one
Chairman,
or two here or there.
clarifications is for me to ask the question that was not answered properly in the first
Yes,
round. Not to
but you-
re-ask a question.
No, you can say, this question wasn't answered, that question wasn't answered, that question wasn't answered, that question wasn't answered.
No, Mr. Chairman. No, Mr. Chairman. I
we will
asked a number
continue.
of questions in the first round. The minister did not answer the questions in the first round.
So you would need to point out to the minister which questions he did not answer.
Mr. Chairman, from 51 all the way to 55, I can ask the questions right now again. But that's the point that I was making, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman,
C'est la vie.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
we do not have 30, 51, 55 questions recorded. So we answer all the questions recorded. We have 33 questions. So unless you didn't read all your questions, because the chairman at the time indicated you have 2 more minutes, and you said, I leave it there. So maybe the questions that you had were just not asked.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, in total, I have 124 questions. When I said I would leave it there, I was going on to another set of questions. All 55 questions, look, the pages right in front of me, was asked concerning Carnival. When the chair before said, I have 2 more minutes, I know it wouldn't have been enough time to go on the other set of questions. So I said I would leave it there and use the second round for those questions. But concerning Carnival, Mr. Chairman, these are the pages, 55 questions I asked, Mr. Chairman.
Like I said, Mr. MP, the minister said he answered all the questions. If you feel he has not answered all, you can ask. No discussion among you guys. You can ask for those questions to be answered. But you can't just say 54 questions weren't answered or 22 questions weren't answered, because nobody would know which questions they are.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman. Point of
And
order.
even if you go down the list, even if the minister went down the list, he can skip 1 or 2 questions. It is possible. So we'll move on, and when the minister finish, you can,
Mr. Chairman, point of order.
yes, what's the point?
Mr. Chairman, you cannot say that the question wasn't asked. I asked all my questions. The minister has a support staff. The
Yes, but
secretariat has a
I
recording.
cannot verify which questions it is that you are referring to. So
But that is
when,
exactly the point I was
when
making.
the minister is finished, you can say, question 1, 2, 7, 8, and 9 were not asked. And you can state what those
That
questions
was not
are.
asked, was not answered.
I mean, were not answered, you can restate those questions.
Where? In clarification? Where am I going to restate those questions?
Yes, in clarification.
But Mr. Chairman, clarification is not to re-ask questions that was not answered in the first round.
Yes, but like, it's to clarify what took place.
But I'm not asking for a clarification, Mr. Chairman.
Because- Mr.
Chairman,
I'm asking for the question to be answered.
MP, I made a suggestion. If you don't want to take it
But it's
up,
not a right suggestion.
then
Because then you're taking away from my right to ask the questions to the minister properly. The minister did not answer all the questions. And you are telling me use clarifications to re-ask the questions.
I'm not
that the
telling you to
minister missed.
use time from your second round.
No, you're telling me to use clarification. The point of clarification to re-ask the questions
Because,
that the minister missed in the first round.
sometimes the minister can answer and he did not answer completely, or he did not answer correctly, and you would ask to clarify a question that was asked.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. But he
MP,
did
we are
not
not going to
answer,
continue.
period.
Okay,
That's what I'm
fine.
saying to you. He did not answer
And
the
we
questions.
will deal
period.
with that when the minister is finished with all the other MPs. And, Minister, you may continue.
Mr. Chairman, in the meantime, I'm willing, not willing, if Parliament could even have staff to go back and look at the video, because you can rewind the video while it's live to prove if those 20 additional questions were missed. Because we have 32 recorded, we didn't miss 20
Minister,
questions.
continue with answering the other questions from other MPs.
And now move on to the questions posed by MP Bryson. MP asked if Carnival is at risk for 2023. Is the Queens and Calypsonians saying so? No, Carnival 2023 is not at risk in regards to funding, as was also stated to the SADF last week. At all costs and at all odds, Carnival will happen. MP asked a question regarding promoters asking why 5,000 people in the village and 2,000 tickets is sold. The answer provided, the government has indeed heard complaints from promoters about the concern of the season tickets and how they're being used. This is part of the investigation done this is also part of the investigation done. What was the outcome of the meeting? What tangibles came out of it? The meeting that we held discussed the investigation by SMDF. We also discussed the SOAB report. We also discussed the working relationship with government. We discussed why the changes were made in the Articles of Incorporation in 2015. We discussed in the articles of SADF, there's a possibility for a supervisory board, and this was never done. We also asked why was this never done to increase accountability. Government also stated that we would like to also have the opportunity to suggest recommended profiles for the supervisory board and even make recommendations for the supervisory board to increase accountability, among other things. What does the accountability ordinance say regarding the marketing contract going to bid? Article 47 on the National Accountability Ordinance stipulates in the first paragraph that the procurement of goods or services by the country shall be contracted by public tender. In the third paragraph, it is stipulated that by derogation from paragraph 1, no public tender is required if the projected expenditure does not exceed the sum of 50,000 guilders in the case of procurement of goods or services. What are the plans to make sure Carnival 2023 happens? As mentioned before, we've had a meeting with Carnival. We've discussed some of the findings within the investigation, and we plan to follow up on those points in the investigation to, of course, continue to support Carnival 2023 and to live up to better expectations than the past. Next question was regarding the maritime registration. We do agree that more needs to be done in the area of collection. The minister will discuss with Maritime what can be done for 2023 and consider having this outsourced if it is legally possible and feasible. In regards to tourism tax, as mentioned before, this is part of the tax legislation improvement plans. Can the minister confirm if budget 2020, if budget is approved for 2022, we still can get the loans and execute this year? Once the budget is approved, CFT has indicated to support the loan and we can start the execution. These have been included in budget 2023, so the execution can continue in that year. Thus, yes, having this budget approved is key for having these loans still approved. I also believe that during a closed door meeting with Parliament, CFT also indicated these same sentiments. Mr. Chairman, I have now covered all of the questions from the different MPs, and I look forward to clarifications in the second round.
Thank you, Minister Artwell Arion. I now look at the floor for any clarifications. I see MP Westcott Williams.
Good evening. The chairperson had said he sees MP Westcott Williams. So I was waiting to hear, was that giving me the floor? Yes or no? But yes, apparently that was the case. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A good evening, and a good evening to my colleagues and the minister who responded to some of the answers posed. And I would like him to clarify the following statements. My question regarding the mutations in long lease, and the minister sort of repeated the answer given before, but now he added commercial properties. So am I to understand that based on the compliance efforts and the cleaning up efforts and any other efforts, that 22 parcels of long lease for commercial purposes have been given, have been rectified? Is it that these persons did not have the long lease? We're talking commercial properties, so if the minister can explain a little better what exactly. The 8.5 million guilders received from the Netherlands with respect to TWO work and initiatives, and how exactly is that money allocated and used? Is the money deposited in the government's coffers for then the TWO to utilize? Is it the services that are utilizing these funds? How exactly, if in our budget 8.5 million guilders is mentioned, how does it administratively take place with the TWO, the Tijdelijke Werkorganisatie? The minister did not answer the question that I posed before regarding the same issue, and that is the fact that in our budget, we have eliminated some of the projected items that the government of St. Martin wanted to do in order to put into the budget TWO projects. So, off the top of my head, I can mention the government's intention that they had in the budget for a diversification study, but that was deleted, that was taken out, the money reserved for that. And now we see 8.5 million guilders by the TWO in order to carry out their projects. So how exactly does the carrying out of these projects take place? When can the Parliament, again, same question over and over, when can the Parliament of St. Martin now expect the tax improvement plan and these different taxes that are mentioned in the answers by the government of St. Martin, a tourist levy, a hotel tax, etc.? Are these part of the tax improvement plan, or these are ad hoc measures as far as new taxes, other taxes are concerned? I saw the minister was going to answer my question regarding the coalition agreement that was sent to the governor, His Excellency, and then he stopped there. So, can we receive the coalition agreement sent to the governor? So the Integrity Chamber for 2023 will again be put, in the words of the minister, to 2.4 million guilders like it was in 2022, and it was cut with approximately 700,000 guilders. And did I understand the minister to say that the budget for the Integrity Chamber, based on their request, has been increased back to 2 million? Is that where the 2 million came in? And that they can manage with the 2 million? So what do we expect in 2023? An amendment to cut it again and then for government to increase it again? Is my question. I'm understanding that for casinos and lottery fees, 10 million has been budgeted. That was not my question. My question was, the government said it is busy negotiating with casinos, etc., as to how they can pay their outstanding amounts. The minister told us some time back that the casinos were not in agreement with the government regarding these outstanding amounts. So, Now, is there an agreement? What are the amounts that are agreed to be paid, and what are the arrangements for these monies to be paid? So, Mr. Chairman, what do I do regarding my questions about or regarding the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sport? What do I do? Do I just take, well, the minister didn't get the answers and that's it, and we continue on the budget while so many things are mentioned regarding the Ministry of Education, Culture, Youth and Sports in the answers to the questions posed in the Central Committee meeting regarding this very same budget? Matters like study financing. So what am I just to take? That we didn't get the answers yet and we just continue? Those are the matters I would like the minister to clarify for me, please, Mr. Chairman, and I thank you.
Thank you, MP Westcott Williams. I look around in the room. Do I see any need? No, there is none. Minister, you have heard the clarifications. 7 minutes, 10? I'll give you 15. The meeting will be adjourned until 7:35 in order for the minister to prepare the clarifications. Meeting adjourned. Good evening and welcome back. We had a brief adjournment so that the minister could prepare to answer some clarifications from member MP Westcott Williams. Minister, you have the floor.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And after looking at the video, I would like to say to MP Christopher Emanuel, we did realize that the Ministry of TIAT has forgotten some of the answer some of the questions. So they are being reviewed and we're still going to answer them. In the meantime, also MP Westcott Williams, the Ministry of ECOS has provided the questions, the answers to your questions. Regarding the tertiary education, the clarification sought by the Legal Affairs Department on response to the Council of Advice on the law were drafted and submitted to the Legal Affairs Department to conclude its final review. Once the Legal Affairs Department gives a positive advice for the dossier, it will be presented to the Council of Ministers to then be presented to Parliament. What is the status on the community school program? As per August, the community school program is being executed in the following primary schools: the Methodist Agagi Center, the Foundation for Protestant Christian Education, Hillside Christian Schools, Foundation Catholic Education, Foundation Seventh Adventist, Orania School, Parent and Teachers Association. The start of the community school program has not continued because of budget reductions. The youth budget cut. The in-depth research should be conducted to assess the current state of affairs of the safety nets. This research and the drafting of the safety net policy has been delayed due to the budget cuts implemented. This was recommended and raised within the report, Smart Development of a Sustainable and Equitable Funding Model for Daycare and After-School Programs. The last question was in regards to, for ECYS, was in regards to her MP's concerns for the study financing prospects. The government is concerned, and in particular, the Department of Division of the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sports is undertaking the following actions. Division study financing, increase awareness campaign in all high schools and via social media to inform the exam and pre-exam class students about the study financing, introduction of online digital application process in keeping with technological innovations, extension of application period from 4 to 6 weeks, information sessions for parents and guardians, the division student support services, information sessions and workshops on applying to college and university in the Netherlands, United States, and Canada, obtaining a U.S. student visa and Canadian study permit, students attending PSVE schools on accessing tertiary level education, for parents titled Looking Beyond Helping Your Child with Career Choices, and for the Department of Education, Division Inspection, policy initiatives geared towards increasing enrollment in higher education by the Department of Education includes to reform secondary education to increase the level of preparedness of secondary graduates for continuing education and improving the quality of higher education offered locally through the introduction of higher education law and improved funding mechanisms. In regards to the clarifications, the ministry is not clear what is meant by the the ministry is not clear what is meant by the 22 parcels that the MP is referring to. Limitations presented in the budget is based on compliance efforts being carried out in relation to the collections of cannons from the long lease holders. In regards to the 8.5 million guilders received by the Netherlands, the inclusion of the TBO project is budget neutral. The income is included and the expenses are also included in the budget. Thus, when it comes in, it's booked in as income, and when invoices are paid, it's booked as expenses. When can Parliament receive the tax improvement plan? All the tax improvements are part of the tax legislation improvement plan. However, the tourism levy is separated and spearheaded by the Ministry of VSR through a work group. which work group included participants of Ministry of VSR, TIA, Justice, and Finance. And the needed feedback from tax lawyers is also provided to the work group. In addition to that, the tax lawyers from the tax improvement plan are also supporting Ministry of VSR in terms of support for the legislation. In 2023, the Integrity Chamber requested a budget of $2.4 million. Based on Article 11, we will see the additional cuts have to be made to 2023. In regards to the agreements of the casinos, the receivers are currently in discussion with the casinos to come to sign the payment plans and agreements. So as stated before, the government sent out their amounts. There was discussions back and forth. Meetings were held with the different companies, and verbally the amounts were agreed to, but now the official agreement to come in and sign and pay has started. In addition to that, some casinos already have started making some payments already prior to the agreement being signed. Mr. Chairman, that is all for the clarifications and the missing answers for the MPCRS cut from education.
Thank you, Minister, for those clarifications. And the Minister said that he will look into incorporating the missing answers as well. So with that, we go to the speakers list to start the second round. And the first speaker on the list is MP Heiliger Martin. MP, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening to one and all. I'll start right one time with the questions. Questions is for the Justice Ministry. Can Parliament be provided with a copy of the advice on the legal position that exposition from the Department of Legal Affairs, CCSU, and if that from the one from the Raad van Advies is ready, can Parliament also receive a copy of that? Since the function book is in its final stage for approval, I'm assuming it's by the governor, in the meantime, placements in the correct functions can be done. I stand to be corrected. If this is indeed the case, I am also assuming that the placement and appeal committee has already been established with the involvement of the union. Through you, Mr. Chairman, please have the Minister of Justice confirm if this is indeed the case. If it is not established, when can we expect the placement to begin for CAPSM, IBP, federal detectives, and Border Patrol, Border Protection? I've read that the Minister stated that they're still busy with escalating. Since the proper skills have already been established since 2019 as a draft waiting to be approved, why did the Minister not follow what was already there? Why rework the entire escalating process? What's the difference between the one from 2019 and that of the Ministers today? What is the deadline to finalize the escalating? And since the Minister is still in the process of working on escalating, was an amount reserved in the 2023 budget? If yes, what amount? If not, why not? And if any reservations were made, are these in line with the respective salary scales for the employees in question? The Minister also mentioned in a press briefing that the payments will be made in installments. How many installments exactly, and what will the potential fiscal ramifications be for those receiving this back pay? Seemingly, there's a higher number of police leaving the police force. What steps did the Minister take, if any, when she first heard of this, and what steps is she planning to take to stop the exodus? What exactly are their main reasons for leaving? Is there provisionings or reservation in place for the police force in the 2023 budget with regards to vehicles, uniforms, bulletproof vests, regular tools, and are they needed in order for them to execute their daily tasks? With regards to the $2.2 million reserved to pay the remaining 50% to the justice workers, how was the first payment calculated? I'm still not clear about that. And what was the exact total amount? Can Parliament receive the breakdown of that from that first payment? And where did the funds come from? Was it even budgeted for back then? Considering the fact that we are in November of 2022, the 2.2 million which is reserved on the budget of 2022, how and when will it be paid? What will be included in this payment? I need clarity because seemingly it's not clear. Is it going to be solely the 16.3% allowance, or will it include adjustments to salary, increments, vacation pay, court verdicts, overtime, etc.? I need a full breakdown of what will be paid out for the 2.2 million guilders. Should these payments not take place per the motion that was tabled by my person in June of 2021 from the 2022 budget, will it be taken up in the 2023 budget? There is still no director at the Immigration Department. Why not? This function has been budgeted for but still not filled. What is the current status of the hiring of a director? With regards to the recent unfortunate incident with the head of the admissions in the Immigration Department, what disciplinary action was taken against the department head considering the situation? Has there been any previous complaint filed verbally in written form or anything regarding this head of admissions prior to this situation? What is the morale of the staff regarding the situation, and are they comfortable with having such an individual remain in that capacity? My next question goes to the VSA Ministry. How many persons were offered the professional service agreement to work for the EHAS program? During which period did these persons work? How many automatic extensions were given on the agreement? Why were these agreements not extended with the public entity country St. Martin? What was the objective of these agreements? In other words, why was this agreement format chosen? In the opinion of the Minister of VSA, can these agreements be considered labor agreements executed under civil law? If not, why are parties called employer and employee? Under the current law, these agreements would constitute a labor agreement, and persons with more than 2 short-term agreements for a total of 24 months would be in permanent service. Does the Minister agree, through you, Mr. Chair, with this statement? If not, why not? Were the agreement based on a standard format used in or by government, and has this been vetted by legal affairs? With regards to the PCR tests that visitors and citizens took at the airport when they arrived, please confirm if the price, Mr. Chairman, through you, is exactly $125. I'm not sure, but let's say it's $125. So the airports receive these funds, and correct me if I'm wrong, an amount goes to the labs and the rest goes to government. What's exactly the split? Did airport charge for any operational costs? How many income was received in 2021 and 2022 thus far? If there's a split 3-way or 2-way, how much of the 125 is allocated to the lab, how much to the airport, and how much to government? And lastly, for VSA, has government already invoiced the airport for 2021? If yes, how much? If not, why not? Next questions are for the Finance Ministry. Can the Minister provide Parliament with documents regarding the agreements made with the government of the Netherlands about creating a multi-annual sustainable financial plan for St. Martin, including the negotiations about converting loans to grants? Will the suggestions I presented to the Minister, through you, Mr. Chair, the Prime Minister and the Minister of TIAD in 2021 and earlier this year regarding securing St. Martin's financial viability be taken into consideration in this multi-annual sustainable financial plan? If so, can the Minister indicate which suggestion will be considered and how? Can the Minister please explain the draft economic recovery plan, the tax reforms that you are working on, the uitvoeringsagenda, the multiple annual sustainable financial plan? How are they all linked if this is the case? And if the current loans from the Netherlands need to be repaid prior to the finalization of the multi-annual sustainable financing plan, what will the consequences be for St. Martin? The Minister didn't answer my last questions in the note following the report and the CFT and the RFT, and can the Minister provide Parliament with these answers? My next question is for General Affairs. With regards to the execution of the uitvoeringsagenda for the country package for St. Martin, what have the effects been on the budget for 2022, if any? Are any effects expected for 2023, and if so, what are these? What will the effects on St. Martin's multi-annual budget from 2020 through 2023 onward be if any of the counter proposal to the COHO as drafted by the government of Aruba, Curacao, and St. Martin and presented to government of St. Martin is approved? Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take, I think I still have a few minutes, this opportunity to thank my colleague, MP Rayon Peterson, for posing the questions for me in round one. And with that, I will leave it here, Mr. Chairman, and await the answers from the minister. Thank you.
Thank you, MP Heiliger Martin. Our next speaker, MP Westcott Williams. MP Westcott Williams, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. And can it be ascertained which of the documents mentioned by the minister has actually been received by Parliament? Can I somehow get an indication of that? Mr. Chairman, that's important, because in order to continue my questions in this second round, I need to know if the information that I requested is provided in the documentation that according to the minister has been provided.
MP, 1 second, please.
Thank you.
We received a note that was sent along with the documents, and it says, please be informed that the documents sent below email has to be shared as confidential so the MPs are able to view the document. These documents are: 1, capital expenditures 2022, Ministry of Romy, in a PDF form. From COM, the Carnival Restructuring PDF form, an advice regulating the employment immigration status of tenured foreign workers, and that was it. So these documents were shared with Parliament, but they are classified as confidential.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All of the documents that you mentioned, they are classified as confidential?
Yes.
Interesting. Mr. Chairman, you know, I have no further questions in this round.
Thank you, MP. The next speaker, MP Christophe Emmanuel.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good evening to everyone. I'm going to try to make this much easier for the minister in this round. So I'm going to just number the questions and also I can send them to the minister. But I acknowledge that he saw where the missing questions were. I just hope that that also comes with our little agreement we had earlier, seeing that I won that one. Nonetheless, right into it, Mr. Chairman, through you, I'm going to ask these questions to the minister direct. How much monies are needed for the projected payout of the police officers that is scheduled for December the 20th, 2022? Under which budget post is this specifically addressed? Is it also described properly in the explanatory notes of the budget or not? That's one. How much monies are budgeted to purchase equipment this year yet for police officers and other justice chain workers, and under which budget post is this specifically addressed? Is it also described properly in the explanatory notes of the budget or not? 2. How will the anticipated loss of 15 officers from the Uniform Division be covered by the present operation, by the present officers, and what effect will this have on the overtime of the officers? 3. By how much was the police budget cut in 2022, while the agreement with the Netherlands was that no operational monies will be taken. They seem not to be able to purchase vehicles to carry out their safety work, or to carry out their work safely. 4. The Minister of Rummy, these questions related. How much funds are presently budgeted for the cleaning of the waterways, and why isn't the contract being awarded? 5. How much was the contract that was legally tendered and won by a few contractors worth, and what was the finding of the SOB? Can we have a copy of said report? 6. Has the minister used the budget allocated for the cleaning or clearing of the waterways for something else? And if so, what exactly? 7. Is this true? Is it true that the stormwater pumps are not functioning properly and that there's no money to repair them? If there's no money, why aren't they being repaired properly instead of a quick fix? And is there no monies? Where was the money used? So in other words, if there was no money for the water pumps, have the minister direct any money in any other direction that was labeled for the water pumps anywhere else. 9. When it comes to the road network, it seems that the Minister of Finance made 10 million guilders available for the ministry to do road repairs and recapping of roads. Is this true? Yes or no? Has the budget for the calamity works of roads, waterways, and landfill being adjusted, seeing the year is coming to an end? If yes, how much was left for the remainder of the year on the budget, seeing that the weather patterns are extremely unpredictable? 11. How much monies are presently reserved on the budget for district cleaning, as presently the contracts expired and no new contracts are being granted? The beaches are dirty, the roadways, especially the neighborhoods, aren't getting the needed attention while we are heading into the high season. Is the government keeping this into consideration? 12. 12. When it comes to the landfill, how much monies are reserved for the remainder of the year, and why aren't contracts granted to the local operators on the landfill? How much are those contracts worth based on the last tender that was canceled due to incompetence of the non-VRUMI evaluators? 13. When it comes to the verdict of Wynwood Roads in the Larimar case, it's obvious that of the $2 million of work that had to be carried out, only a fraction was done. Is this so? Where is the balance of the money? And who's responsible for those works exactly within the ministry? 14. What's the situation with the work in Dutch Quarter when it comes to the sewage project, and who is responsible for those works? Has Wynwood Roads been assigned to these works, and is it the intention to use the monies of the court claim to execute these works? Sorry. 15. When will Phillipsburg West be finalized? When will the pumping station be built, which was part of the $2 million court verdict in the Larimar case? PJIA. 16. When it comes to the airport, I must ask, what is the government doing with the unexpected additional works of $10 to $15 million, according to PJIAE and Ballasnadam in their press release? How will this affect the government's borrowing norms as they are guarantors of the airport loans regarding the reconstruction of the airport? 17. How will the $10 to $15 million be financed? And is it the government expected to pay part of these additional construction funds? 18. When we look at the civil aviation aspect at the airport regarding the upgrading and expanding of the entity in accordance with the country packages, I must ask the following questions. Mr. Chairman, how much funds have been reserved for the matter in 2022, and has any of it been used thus far? If no funds have been reserved, then how do we ever expect to get back to Category 1 airport, seeing that that's the most important aspect to become Category 1 again? 19. Has the shipyard lands been allocated to the airport? And if no, why not? As a means, an unnecessary loss of income for the country, seeing that the minister was on Oral Gibbs saying it is considered theft to the country. 20. Will the government start receiving any sort of funds from the airport in 2022 for repayment of the loans they got from the government as they would have done to the bondholders? If no, why not? If yes, how much? Sorry. 21. During the COVID pandemic, government set up 30-man strong EHAS team, which is now slowly being terminated after more than 3 consecutive contracts. In 2020, it costed the government some 472,000 guilders. In 2021, some 1.48 million, and in 2022, some 1.59 million for a mere 10 months. A total of 3.54 million was spent on the EHAS process to process people. Mr. Chairman, through you, were these people or consultants? And what are their hourly payment rates? Based on 30%, it looks like they are great salaries, over 4,000 guilders each. What's the standard hourly rate of consultants generally in government? Is it the same? Is it 5 times more or maybe 10 times more? How much did these works cost the government, and where was the budgeted and how was it covered? Was there a national decree for each consultant, or was there a national decree for the whole batch? Has the government received monies from the pending court case regarding these employees, consultants, as they took government to court? 22. When it comes to collecting taxes and other licenses or fees that are outstanding, how much was put in the amended 2022 budget that still needs to be collected? How many casino fees are there on the books for 2022 to be collected? And does the government genuinely expect this to happen? I only read about protest letters being answered and 12 months given to pay 10-year-old debts. Is this also going to be the norm for seniors? 23. Have the income projections gone up in the amended budget of 2022 to downward, seeing the present situation at the island, and are the projections for the end of the year still correct? What is the answer based on exactly? 24. By how much has the budget of staff for the MPs increased, and from where was this money taken from exactly? 25. Excuse me? How much more time? Finish? Okay. Then I started this question, let me answer it. Yes, does the government believe that the travel budget of Parliament should be cut? If yes, why, and where exactly would you propose? I end it right there on 25.
Thank you.
You only come 23?
Thank you, MP. We now go over to the next Member of Parliament, MP Bryson. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening once again to one and all. Mr. Chairman, I was following the whole discussion indeed with MP Emmanuel and the answers to questions and so on. And I just want to state, and I think I mentioned to you, Mr. Chairman, one thing I do understand where it comes from, why a member of Parliament has to get their answers in the first round and not posing a clarification, is because we still want an opportunity, if it's missed, to then get the answer and then still have a clarification on it. So indeed, for the ministries watching, I would think it is primarily the task of the staff bureau or the relevant ministry to take note of those questions. Normally, in the day, you used to have everybody in the conference room taking notes. Now with technology, they can follow. But indeed, I think it's important that all members of Parliament questions are at least taking note. And even if, hey, one can't be missed and you say, well, MP, I didn't understand your question, then that's for the minister to present, but not that they are ignored. So I'm hoping that we can get an improvement, and if it is indeed that this was primarily from the Ministry of TIAT, then I would hope that the Minister of TIAT looks into this and find out what went wrong with the MP's questions. Mr. Chairman, I was going to pose a question early in the first round regarding to this situation with the Bioscope Lunsford Ordning that oversees the rating system of movies. Because recently I got some complaints from different families about the fact that a PG-13, which means parental guidance 13, a parent was not able to enter with their child that was 11 years old, but it says parental guidance. And it turns out that actually there's a legislative issue in Article 18 of that law. And I was going to ask that question to the Minister of TIAT, but in discussing with some members of our party, we actually found that a former member of parliament was already working on a national ordinance to deal with this. She shared it with me, and that's MP Tamara Leonard. And the national ordinance was going to, among others, change the cost of this committee, which is the one thing I would like to ask. What is budgeted? I've never seen a specific budget post for it. Maybe I mentioned it. But what is the cost that's being appropriated for paying these committee members? Because it used to be, well, it is currently, I think, well, there's different categories, but it goes between 5 guilders and 100 guilders, and those things would have been adjusted. But anyway, I did inform the Griffier that our faction is interested in taking forward this law from where it was left off with the advice from the Council of Advice and moving it forward accordingly. So I would like to thank MP Leonard for actually her work on that and for the opportunity that we have now to continue that work. Mr. Chairman, a lot of the questions we would have had about justice were already posed in terms of the HR issues and justice were already posed by MP Heiliger Martin. I too look forward to the answers to those questions. But I feel like we have a pending HR situation that's going to blow up in the Ministry of TIAT that I need to ask about. Because I have asked in the past, and we've even brought a motion of parliament, supported by many members of parliament, about this issue of critical vacancies and the prioritizing of the hiring, dealing with the envelope scale and these sort of things. And since that motion has passed, the Prime Minister I did ask for an update and it was provided, but it appears, and I can't say if it's true, but it appears that there's still major HR issues within the Ministry of TIAT related to envelope scale and people getting their gratifications and being correctly placed in the scales. Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask our Minister of TIAT to look into what is going on with our HR and personnel within TIAT, because lo and behold, for example, on the one hand, I will be, sympathizing with a member of parliament whose 55 questions, some of them were not answered, but then these same civil servants are not being properly treated within the organization itself. And the HR issues is something that does fall under the Ministry of TIAT, but it's done in accordance and on advice of the Secretary General of that ministry. I want to suggest and ask the Minister if he would be open to considering doing some sort of HR audit into how many vacancies there are in TIAT, how many are still within the envelope scale, who are within their wrong scales, who are still due for promotion and have not received it, and also a situation where a person within the ministry applies for a position, they get an offer that's, let's say, 5,000 guilders, which is maybe 100 guilder raise from the existing position, but then a person that applied from outside the ministry then applies for that same position, and their offer is 6,000 guilders. How is that supposed to make our civil servants, especially within the Ministry of TIAT, feel? And I know for a fact this is happening. And it needs to be put to a stop, and attention needs to be placed on this. It is causing a huge demotivation, especially within this ministry, that is the oil that fuels the engine of our economy, which is the Ministry of TIAT. So I would like to know if the minister would be open to considering doing this once and for all and getting to the bottom of all of these HR issues within this very critical ministry. And finally, I would just like to ask the minister if he can provide us with an update on the progress of the legislation that is geared towards creating the right to a basic bank account and addressing other banking issues, but particularly that right to a basic bank account. If the minister can provide us an update on where that is and maybe an estimate to when that will be, well, at least with the Raad van Advies, because I know he can't speak for the Council of Advice and they need to take their time with the law, but at least when will the Council of Ministers and when will the government have this law with the Council of Advice, after which it can come to the the Parliament of St. Martin for handling. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP Bryson. The following speaker, MP George Pantaflet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening to the chair, my colleagues in Parliament, Honourable Minister of Finance and support staff, those who are viewing, following, taking notes of questions posed during this Parliament meeting. Mr. Chairman, I just have some suggestions and will avoid any questions. Number one, Mr. Chairman, colleagues of mine who are not here this evening did, let me call it not an excursion really, but they were all over on the Dutch side of the island checking out lottery booths. They noted about 100 and something of these booths, and I think they were supposed to come back to Parliament or submit a request, or they did submit a request. They're not here to really substantiate that fact, in order to find exactly whether these lottery booths are legal, yes or not. And Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at how we can get money, Mr. Chairman. Because contrary to what we might think, even though things are hard in St. Martin, and I could be wrong, but I believe that is one thing a lot of persons who do are good at for sure, Mr. Chairman, is buying lottery tickets, buying numbers. People do that for sure. No matter how difficult things are, they do it because they hope to win a certain amount of money. So I'm saying, Mr. Chairman, I think we should definitely take it up very seriously to find exactly the lottery booths, whether they're in hotels, whether in street corners, in supermarkets, whatever, Mr. Chairman, to find exactly, are we benefiting from them financially? That's one. Mr. Chairman, the matter of the casinos was already mentioned. I believe the Minister of Finance made it clear during a meeting here in Parliament that they have already started collecting, and they're busy, they've invoiced these casinos, and they're asking them to pay their arrears at the same time maintain their current fees, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's what's said. So that is being handled as we speak. The only issue I have, Mr. Chairman, is the fact of the matter as to the fees. What year do they relate to? Are we talking about 1989? Because that's the last time I found it on the floor of this Parliament in 2011 during a budget meeting, that the last time or the only time those fees were ever adjusted was 1989. So I wonder what has happened since then. Mr. Chairman, I suggest that is looked into. Let me make sure, not a question, I suggest that is looked into to ensure that some kind of discussion can be held as to these fees. The Chairman, the issue of the tax office, we know that go way back, 20, 30 years, and I really do hope that going forward that the Minister of Finance, the President's staff, and those who are there are able to get the necessary funds and ICT, the technology, in order to make sure that that department is functioning properly. Because when he mentioned that old name, I said, yes, I can recall Island Council days when they were using that system, which is definitely outdated. At the same time, though, I believe that our telecommunication TLM should also get the infrastructure up to date in order for when you go digitalize everything, that is functioning properly too, because that's very, very important. I still see some long lines at GB because I guess people don't maybe have the computers or they don't trust the system that much. The issue of room tax, Mr. Chairman, we had the SHT here one time, and I can remember very well, Mr. Chairman, I'd asked the SHT director, I think it was, regard to an invoice or bill that from one of the hotels where it mentioned VAT, value added tax, and city tax. Mr. Chairman, the director at the time said that he thinks it's a mistake, he's going to look into it, but I guess we have not pursued him or pursued the matter. But I think, Mr. Chairman, I suggest that the Minister of Finance sit down with the Minister of TIAT and find exactly what is happening, because if that's the case, Mr. Chairman, something is wrong with that. Again, I'm looking to see where we can find monies for government coffers. Mr. Chairman, the matter of GB, I believe the minister said out of 6 million, GB paid 3 million, and I think that sometime in the future they'll pay the balance. But in closing, Mr. Chairman, I suggest again that we definitely take up that old argument of dividends. I believe that although the companies right now, some of them, all of them are struggling financially because of COVID-19, because of the war in Ukraine and so on, that I think it's starting to slow down a bit, what I believe I saw in the news a few days ago. that there should be a dividend policy, Mr. Chairman, that's in place, so that in the future, when we definitely believe and hope that the companies start to make a profit, that then government can collect, besides the fees, also collect dividend, Mr. Chairman, because dividend, I believe, has to do with if the company makes a profit. If you don't make a profit, it can't pay dividend. So I'm saying, though, that law should be in place for when the time comes, we can also get additional funds for government. So, Mr. Chairman, again, I thank the minister and his staff for the work that they're doing. And definitely when the time comes for voting, Mr. Chairman, definitely these amendments, as I said, they'll have them in 2022, 2023, 2024. Forever and ever, we'll always have amendments, Mr. Chairman, because no one can detect or determine exactly what income and expenditure is going to be when budgets are concerned. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP George Pontiflet. The next speaker would have been MP Rayon Peterson, but is not present. So we go to the final speaker in this round, MP Ludmila De Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just going to actually react on certain things that I heard today and then double back to the answers that I received earlier on, just to add on a suggestion. When it comes to critical vacancies, there's not only one ministry that suffers from it. In fact, right now, if things in the executive level or executive branch of government is going to come to Parliament on a timely basis, it is going to be challenged by the fact that we have a skeleton or almost non-existent legal department. So yea and way. If you're talking about adjusting salaries within ministries, you're going to have to strengthen an HR department that also has people leaving it at an alarming rate. So I just wanted to mention that rather than, I know that we talk about ministries that we have a lot of background on, especially after we've worked in it, but this executive branch is constrained when you don't have sufficient legal minds that are going to give advice that needs to be sent to the governor, sent to Parliament. You're going to have the same thing when it comes to salaries. The reason people don't want to work for government is because the salaries are low. The salaries are not worth it. There is no incentive for them to come, and this is why even I was almost a little bit rebellious and radical when I made a statement one time saying that I would decentralize the Ministry of TEAT when I was there as the minister, because of the fact that you could actually have more control in sort of giving people the salaries that was commensurate with their experience and the position that they were with. And I know that that is kind of radical of me, but I did say it once because it is not an incentive. There is no good incentive working in these ministries at such a low level of a salary. On top of that, I do appreciate the answers that I received from the minister regarding the discrepancies that people are receiving with tax assessments, and it is absolutely correct what he said. But I will add on to it that this Minister of Finance is probably the most IT savvy one that has ever been there, in the sense of making infographics and making things easy for people to digest. And I suggest that perhaps going forward when it comes to assessments, that a very simplified infographic or video is presented to the public when it comes to their tax assessments. And I mean that as in whether it's a colorful, short blurb. The minister has always been very strong in that. So I would like to see that, so that the public is also seeing something being produced by a ministry that is sending out assessments that have discrepancies because of the systems that we have inherited, in order to avoid people really panicking and having a business up until yesterday tell me that there is no incentive for them to stay on the Dutch side. They're going to go back to the French side because it's just not affordable. That is not the fault of this one ministry. It's the fault of what kind of, how attractive we are making it for people to conduct businesses on the Dutch side, whether local or foreign. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, MP De Weaver. We have come to the end of questions posing by members of Parliament in this second round. And I want to thank the members of Parliament. But before we go to the minister, actually, we would 9? You always take extra. 9 o'clock. We will adjourn the meeting until 9 o'clock so that the minister can come back with the answers. Meeting adjourned until 9 o'clock. Good evening and welcome back. We have had a brief adjournment for the minister to prepare the answers to questions posed in the second round. And the minister is getting his stuff together. And as soon as he is ready, Minister, you have the floor to provide answers to questions posed in the second round. Minister, the floor is yours.
Very good early evening to all. I'll now start off answering the questions from the second round. I'll start with the questions posed by MP Grisha Heliger Martin. Her first answer, the country packages activities for the ministry are outlined in the Budget Amendment 2022 as they were in Budget 2022, approved by the Parliament earlier this year. Next answer, these will be outlined in the presentation of the Budget 2023, once presented to the Parliament accordingly. Next answer, as stated, once the Budget 2023 is presented, more will be explained. However, as it relates to the implemented and those expected to be implemented structural reforms, the government intends to continue the trajectory as continued. There are a few questions posed for the Ministry of Justice, and we're still awaiting those. The next questions are regarding finance. The liquidity loans related to AMR matured in 2021, but given COVID, could not be paid back. The decision was made to postpone the maturing for 18 months until October 2023, so a sustainable financing approach could be developed for St. Martin. Now our debt is close to 100 to 1 billion. Sorry, it is not realistic to suppose that that repayment could happen in full. The negotiations with the Netherlands must lead to a responsible financing burden, and for this, it will be necessary that the loans are converted into grants. Next answer, financial viability, of course, has many variables to take into account. Our ability to generate income is very important, but also managing the spending. The preparations of these plans are made in multidisciplinary settings and will be approved by the Council of Ministers. This process will secure the consistency between policies. The next answer, according to me, all your questions in the note following the final report were responded to. The following questions and responses were provided in the note following the final report. MP's question regarding her letter, the letter that was sent in writing will be replied to in writing. Next answer, the CFT advises majorly in the context of RFT, and that means that primarily by if we comply with the law. However, over time, CFT has also been placed in roles with a political connotation by the RML. And an example of this is CFT asking to give its opinion on the volume of liquidity assistance. However, this actually is a political issue and not a compliance issue. Next answer, options are being explored to facilitate an increase to the integrity chamber in 2023. Next answer, in the annual account of 2011, an amount of 302 million guilders was mentioned as being the total of the bond loans. No write-off took place on these loans. Next answer, we're in the process of developing a multi-annual sustainable financing plan for St. Martin. This plan will be compiled in discussion with the Netherlands and needs to be available by October 2023. Converting loans to grants will be part of the negotiations with the Netherlands. Next answer, RFT is set up as a temporary law on the basis of which supervision is exercised by the Council of Ministers of the Kingdom, while the CFT has a signaling and advisory role in this regard. Based on the evaluations as mentioned in Article 33 of the RFT, the Council of Ministers of the Kingdom decides to what extent the supervision can be wholly or partially terminated. The last evaluation of the CFT was executed by the Evaluation Committee, Article 33. The Kingdom Act Financial Supervision Curacao and St. Martin, which will be provided to Parliament and which comments I support. As a matter of fact, the debt of almost 1 billion guilders is a huge burden for St. Martin. This must be bearable with a aforementioned sustainable financing plan. MP Westcott Williams said she had no further questions. MP Emmanuel answered that so ABEA assignment is currently ongoing regarding the finalization of the trenches contract. Next answer, it was not used for anything else. Next answer, the ministry has two large stormwater pumps, one located at the Vrummy Yard and the other located at the Sucker Garden Road pump. Both pumps were damaged due to salt corrosion. Due to the design of the pumps, the pump at Sucker Garden Road pumping station is damaged beyond repair. The pump at Vrummy Yard has an internal hydraulic leak. Both pumps are in the process of being replaced through cooperation with the Dutch government and water management experts. The government budget of the Ministry of the Pumps is geared towards maintenance and not to sufficiently replace the pumps. The tender of the replacement project, with the help of the Dutch government, is in place. Next answer, 8.6 million guilders was placed on a capex budget of 2022 to address the resurfacing of main roads and hard surfacing the roads. The passage of this budget amendment will allow this process to begin. Next answer, the process of the award of new district cleaning contracts are ongoing. Next answer, from the case of the Women Rose assignment, the Foga pumping station is currently being completed to hand over to government. This project negotiations are presently ongoing with the Women Island Bank, with the Women Rose BV to have the remaining infrastructure works carried out in this quarter. Commencement of the works are being anticipated upon finalization of the ongoing negotiations. Next answer. As mentioned, the projects with the Women Rose case have been reprioritized to address the sewage project in the Dutch Quarter. The execution of the works will be financed from the court settlement between Women Rose and the public prosecutor. Next answer. The project for the Phillipsburg West, including the pumping station, is now projected to be part of the scope for the wastewater project. That is being co-financed by the Trust Fund and the Netherlands. Next answer, the ministry is currently in discussions with the airport regarding this. Next questions, the MP posed to finance. And the answer to his first question, on a yearly basis, the expected tax income for the year is budgeted, which is based on a cash basis. Based on the Q3 reports, our expected income at the end of the year is in line with the amount included in the budget amendments 2022. Next answer, the budgeted amount for the casino and lotteries for the year 2022 amounts to 7.9 million guilders, of which 4.5 billion guilders received up to September. One of the current requirements as agreed with the casinos is that they remain current while paying their outstanding fees. Next answer, the increase of income is based on one additional million guilders, an excise due, and 8.5 million guilders funding we expected to receive from TVO. Next answer, the increase of the staff of the parliament under Sterling Griffier was about 125,000 guilders, and this is mainly related to the vacation allowance that was paid to the staff. Next answer, the government does not have an opinion on the travel budget of Parliament. Parliament is its own entity and is governed as such. Parliament submits the annual budget and it is included in the budget of the country. Next questions posed by MP Bryson. MP discussed the HR issues at the Ministry of TIAT. The Minister will look into this matter, but it should be noted that the issue of the envelope scale and the difference between the advantage or the disadvantage of the offer placement to internal versus external candidates is an organization-wide issue, and it is being looked into, as this issue applies to all ministries. At the beginning of 2022, the Ministry of TIAT started with 11 workers in the envelope scale. All but one worker will be placed in a functional scale because the worker has yet to run a whole HR. Some of the other 10 workers were already placed in their functional scale, while the others still waiting for advices to be completed. MP, in regard to this answer, I will also state that during the last year, I myself have turned back at least one or two advices that was that was actually approved by the SG and the minister at that time, of TIAT in particular, and I sent it back because of the whole envelope scale situation, and that it was in particular in the Ministry of the Department of Statistics. I remember that very clearly. We could go further details, but I know that we had at least one or two situations. Next answer, the cost for the Film Inspection Committee is 5 guilders per movie rated. The chairman receives an additional 300 guilders per year for 2022. An amount of 5,000 guilders is budgeted. for the Film Inspection Committee. Next question. The central bank recently received the complete feedback on this ordinance from both the legal departments of government of Curacao and St. Martin and are now compiling all the feedback. The expectation is that the central bank will provide a draft law during the first week of December. After the draft is received, it will be proceeded to the Council of Ministers, to then be proceeded to the Council of Advice, and depending on the content of the Council of Advice and the timing, the NADA report can be drafted and then be proceeded to Parliament. And again, as I've also told you before, we'll do our utmost to get this done because we understand the urgency of this. There's one answer from MP George Pontefract. Having a dividend policy can help to determine a responsible level of dividend level, but should always be handled with care and should fit the strategic plans of the company concerned. Government is working on such a policy. And there were no questions for MP De Weaver. Mr. Chairman, I believe that's all the answers provided.
Thank you, Minister, for the answers provided. We have come to the second round of this meeting, and I now open for any clarifications from any members. I see no member wishes a clarification. So we have therefore come to the end of the deliberations on this agenda point. According to Article 57 of the Rules of Order, we now go over to voting on the draft National Ordinance amending the National Ordinance 2022 Budget, National Ordinance Budget Amendment 2022, incoming document 104 of the parliamentary year 2022-2023, dated October 21st, 2022. We will vote on Article 1 till 3, the intitulé, the title, the considerance or the consideration, the draft in its entirety. Does any member request voting by roll call, the so-called hoofdelijke stemming?
Geen hoofdelijke stemming.
No roll call requested. So as such, the law is accepted unanimously. Congratulations, Minister. According to Article 88, subsection 1 of the Constitution of St. Martin, Parliament shall notify the government that Parliament has approved this draft national ordinance in its public meeting of today, Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. I want to thank the Minister of Finance, Mr. Artwell Irion, and his support staff for their presence here and for providing the necessary information. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of this meeting. I thank you all for your participation, and I hereby close this public meeting and wish you a safe journey home.